We're
Okay,
live.
we're live. So we're getting started. This is the brand new. This is the first day of our LFM looking for mom kind of meeting or introduction to the channel, to our streaming service. Um, so I wanted to. Well, we all want to kind of introduce the channel's purpose, right? So we wanted to all come together to create a diverse group of people who are in the TTRPG space, and we come together and we play different games. We may not all be in each other's specific campaigns, but this is going to be a channel or a space where you can view different types of genres, different stories, different storytellers and types, and different players and things like that. Is that our goal for the channel? Would you guys agree?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well
that makes
said.
sense. Okay. But yeah, so we want to focus on a diverse group of GMs, as you see us here, playing a variety of TTRPGs. Um, so a quick overview of this session structure, kind of. We're just gonna go through and introduce all of us. Mention your experience, discuss your preferred play style or GM style, stuff like that. Share your reasoning for joining this streaming group, and if we have any questions for each other as we're talking, let's ask each other and dig a little bit deeper. Should I go first?
Sure. You're
Yeah.
already in the hot
Thank
seat.
you. I wasn't gonna go first, but I was volunteered to
but
go first.
Voluntold.
In popcorn
Voluntold.
initiative, you get to choose who goes next. So there is a
Ooh,
benefit,
so much power. Okay.
Right.
Um, my name is Maia, and I have only been playing. I only found out about TTRPGs last year in March. It was I was at like a work event. I was away from home. They flew us out to a different city. I'm forgetting the name right now. But there was a break off part where you guys where everybody could play, or no, everybody could go on a break. They could go to restaurants, they could go play golf, they could go drink at a bar or something. And then for all the nerds, there was like a D&D. So I was like, you know what? I've always heard of D&D. Just like everybody, it's like in the cultural zeitgeist. So I just knew of it like very vaguely. And I was like, okay, that sounds like, I've read Lord of the Rings like in junior high. I've read The Hobbit, and I was like, this sounds like I would really like it. So I played it for the first time. Really, really loved it. They just gave me a pre-gen for a D&D game. I don't know. I had to leave early, and then I might have rolled like a 19 or a nat 20 or something, because when I rolled, everybody cheered loudly. I had no idea. Oh, what happened? I gotta go. Sorry. Everybody's like, "Whoa, that was awesome." I was like, "Oh god." Somebody gave me uh, a guy gave me this D4 here, and he was like, "A little memento to remember your first game." And I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you." So I still have that D4 right there. But ever since then, I've been super obsessed with TTRPGs. I've been learning more about my style and things like that. I've learned different terms and stuff like that. I've learned like what crunchy means in terms of TTRPGs, and I've learned that D&D is probably not my preferred style 100%, because I really love character, building and storytelling, and like having roles get out of the way more so we can have more fun in that sense, and like role playing stuff like that. So after D&D, I was like, oh, there has to be other stuff out there. Like, this can't be the only one. So I like immediately searched. Like 2 months later, I was like, what else is there? And then I started learning about Pathfinder. I fell into that accidentally. Still crunchy. And then I learned about City of Mist and PBTA games powered by the Apocalypse. Vaesen, all the Year Zero engine games. I played Warhammer. I tried that out too. I was just going through
Ooh.
a whole bunch to see, okay, what's out there and what do I like? What's my style? And I'm still trying out more games. I'm gonna try out what's Critical Role's new thing?
Daggerheart.
Daggerheart. Yeah, I'm gonna try out Daggerheart a couple times and see how that goes. But yeah, my number one right now is like City of Mist. Anything Son of Oak is putting out right now. Legend in the Mist, Otherscape. Love it, love it, love it. And I guess also so I haven't been in this space as long as everybody else is gonna go after me. But I have a brain that just gets super hyper fixated on things. So I've literally every day. It's always on my mind. And so sometimes when I tell people it's only been less than a year, they're shocked and surprised when they see my TTRPG calendar because it looks wild.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
but I'm not a dice goblin, as people say. I'm a lore goblin, so my library is just very, very large because I love to read. What else? My preferred play style, GM style. I think I spoke about that. I really love character-driven stories, so I always ask, "What are your goals?" And I like to do stars and wishes just to make sure that everybody's having fun and you feel like there's a purpose for you to be coming to a session every week. And so that's kind of what I like to do as the GM. And I hope for that when I'm playing as well, that a GM will um, make sure that we're still feeling like there's a purpose for us to be here. Like we don't come to each game and just sit there and wonder like, am I wasting my time? Like, what am I doing here? But there's a real like what you do matters in your session and in the world. So yeah, and the reason for joining this streaming group, I thought it was really cool. I want to see more diversity in the TTRPG space. I've joined a lot of sessions and just seen a lot of the same type of people and players, and I really would love to kind of like switch it up and show people that there's different types of people who are playing this game. People who look like me, I don't see it too much, so that's why I think it's good just to get all of our faces out there, and so people can see a wide variety of GMs and players, and know that it's not just you out there. There's more people like you, and stuff like that. But yeah, so I get to pick who goes next, huh? I don't know. I think Andrew. I think he just raised his hand. So. I saw Andrew's hand raised. So.
I guess I have to switch up the thing here. Give me 1 second. There we go. Thank you, Maya. I had. Yeah, I did not have my hand raised just for that.
I don't know. I thought I saw it.
Yeah, what the heck? Sid saw it.
Hello, my name is Andrew. I live up in the far north. I'm in Canada, Quebec. I have been in the TTRPG space for a long time, long enough to be one of the original members of the Hellfire Club.
Snap!
Yeah, that old. So yeah, I was introduced to TTRPGs through D&D, exactly the same games that you saw on things.
Mm-hmm.
That reminded me so much of my childhood. Being in a basement, orange shag rug carpets, the wood panel walls. That was my childhood.
Classic.
Spending so many hours in the dark basements rolling dice and just having a blast. So from there, since those times, but I don't know how many games I've tried and played.
Yeah.
Practically everything from TSR at that time, now Wizards of the Coast. Shadowrun, everything, you name it, I played it probably at some point. But these days, I've noticed over the years, my play changed. So I started out in the crunchy mode. Loved the dice rolling, loved to like beat monsters silly and take all their gold and treasure.
Yeah.
But since those days, I think I've kind of been drawn to more narrative style stories, as Maia mentioned, more character driven. I'm very interested in player interaction, not only between themselves, but with the world, with NPCs, and presenting them with challenges, not only like big bad monsters, but moral dilemmas, problems to solve, things to investigate, mysteries to be unearthed, that kind of thing. Where there's more of an explorative nature, not only of the lore and the world, but of themselves and their characters and who they are in that fantasy world. Those are the types of stories I love telling. It's much more, a lot less hack and slash. I don't know if anyone has played in any of my recent campaigns, you'll probably see anything that's more homebrew as opposed to published. Combat plays a very minimal role in a lot of my games. It's mostly about these other aspects that I delve into. So yeah, that's my playstyle, and as a result, I've been drawn to a lot of the free league games as of late. I love the Year Zero engine and the variations of them. Blade Runner, Alien, the upcoming Electric State games. These are all
Tales from
games.
the Loop, right?
Tales from the Loop, exactly. Coriolis.
Okay.
All these games that focus on characters and exploring who they are in these fantasy worlds or science fiction worlds. I'm not so much drawn to any particular genre over another, whether it be fantasy, science fiction, or Western, steampunk. It could be anything, noir. As long as there's a good story to be told, I think. And I'm drawn to those systems that allow you to tell those stories.
Okay.
So that's the type of GM that I am, the type of play style that I've been drawn to lately. What else do I need to say?
What made you want to get this streaming group together and all that?
You said it so eloquently.
Okay.
Like, ditto.
This guy.
Yeah, no, it exactly what it said. I'd love to see more diversity in this. In this world. There's some of the things that I've seen lately that have really impressed me. Actually, even came out of WotC. Journeys to the Radiant Citadel, I thought was an excellent anthology of adventures that showcased different cultures around the world, which were often suffered from a lot of reductionism, just kind of like just Asian culture, Orientalism, right? This kind of always irked me.
Yeah.
So I love seeing a diversity of cultures and perspectives on things shown in a respectful way, and that is reflective of the cultures that they're drawing from and not taking from them. And
exploitative.
Yeah, I'm
like
not sure if it. I don't think anybody does it to be mean or anything, but I like the extra effort that's put into it just to help people understand. Hey, this is where it comes from. This is a little bit of. So it's not just like otherism kind of thing. So
totally.
And that I try to incorporate those types of things within the games that I run too, and you'll see that in the games that I'll be starting with in Humblewood. Even though it is set in D&D 5e universe, I am introducing aspects from different cultures into it that aren't traditionally in a Humblewood setting that you wouldn't necessarily see. So yeah.
Nice.
I think that's really important. I think that's one of the driving forces that I see behind our little group here. I think this is an awesome little family we have here.
Nice. So, you get to choose who's next. Whoever you see whose hand is up.
I keep being drawn to the bottom corner on my screen, and that happens to be beginner.
Okay. Right in the middle. It will be hard to top the previous people, but so I have been beginner on the internet for forever. My name is Sebastian. I'm in a little country in South America, Uruguay, and I was introduced to tabletop RPGs like 20 years ago, first days of college. But I really started to play regularly about 10 years ago. It has been since 10 years ago to now. It has been always online. It's really hard to find people to do it locally. So yeah, it has been virtual tabletop for me for these 10 years. I have been playing mostly D&D. That's what most people play, but that was not my first love. I love to read other games and see how they solve different parts or how they play different, have rules for different things, or focus on different parts of the game and how they do solve the exploration or solve the social interactions or there are games for
Mhm.
everything.
Yeah.
If you want to play a genre or a kind of story, there is a game for that, and I like to see how that specific game solve that part and do it, and maybe incorporate it in another game. So in my games, I match a lot of rules with different games. But yeah, it's hard to find people to play other games, other games other than D&D. And yeah, I have been trying to do that for a year and a half in my own Discord server where I met Shin. And yeah, in the last year and a half, I have played like 10 or 15 different game system with a lot of different people. And yeah, I think that this group came at the right time for me. Like I want to show people that anybody can do it. That an average show table and how we play around the table and what can you expect of playing a tabletop role-playing game without being extremely knowledgeable about the rules or extremely serious about the game, or just an average group of people sitting around the table playing the game. That's not something that you see too much online. Most of the streams that there are out there are really well produced stuff right now that set a really high bar or high expectations for the people that are watching the other side. So yeah, that's not most tables that I know of or that I have played on. So that's kind of what I want to showcase. And I cannot shoulder a stream channel by myself. I don't have the time. I work a lot of hours. I have a family, 3 kids and a wife. So yeah, that's my thing. My time for playing is really short, and I can do it. I can run a game, prepare, and do all the stuff. And I kind of want to show that, and show people how to do it. And
do you play with a lot of Spanish speakers?
English, and I have a really funny anecdote about that. It was part of a big West March D&D server, and yeah, once you get to know people, we found a group of 5 Spanish-speaking people, and we never played in Spanish before. So we set a date and say, okay, let's get all of us together and play in Spanish for once. And we couldn't do it.
But why?
Because we were from different parts of the world.
So
our lingo in Spanish it was really different. It was really hard to understand each other in Spanish.
So many different dialects, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we ended up switching to English, and that's how we ended up playing the game.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, English is the common language, right? It's the lingua franca.
That's how I see it. Yeah, the common language that you see in books, movies, and shit like that. It's English. But yeah, I like to write a lot. I write my own games. I have published some adventures and stuff like that. Not very successfully, but I like to do it. And yeah, and I have been at that for years, and now I was working on a game too. Like it's a hack of Morborg set on the 30-year war. That's what I will be playing this year, I think. Because I played this game to do or to give the players the chance to do everything I see the characters of the books I read do in the characters that you see the books to do in the games. Like I love like I've been reading lately, like the Three Musketeers, Capitana La Triste, and stuff like that. And
nice.
I haven't found a game set in that period, so I made one.
That's what's great about TTRPGs, though. You can just take any piece of
just
media and then just start playing in it.
yeah, just start playing with it.
Yeah.
Pick a set of rules and do your thing. It's something anybody can do, and so that's
Awesome.
stuff that I want people to be able to do, and yeah.
Cool.
I usually like to set the world for the players with a few plots that things that are going on in the world, and put the players in there. If they want to interact with it or not is up to them, but always take what they do and shape the world around it. That's kind of the gameplay I am for. And yeah, I focus a lot of in exploration and social interaction.
Awesome. Who do you want to go next, beginner?
Yeah, let's go with Sid there in the right corner for me.
I felt it in my bones.
I saw your hand up.
Oh, you saw my hand go up?
I'm looking the other way. Like,
Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me. Please don't pick me.
Oh man. Yeah. Well, first, my name is Sid. My pronouns are she, her, and I do a lot of gaming with the username Shock or Shock Games. And I am getting over a cold, so after I get done, I'm gonna go refill my water cup. Because I've already downed it. It's gone.
Oh, you're good.
But I am a COVID era addition to the space. I've been in writing for a really long time, but during quarantine, got on Roll20 because I'm a chronic Kickstarter person, and I had backed the Avatar Legends game and wanted to see what was going on. A lot of my families played D&D, but I never really bought into it. I've got 5 siblings, 4 of them play D&D, and I still had never played. And got into an Avatar Legends game, starting to learn the rules, and it's powered by the apocalypse. So that was my first real experience. And that game group didn't work out, but I met some really cool people within that group. And one was like, I'm gonna run a 5e game. If you guys want to keep playing, I'll just make something up. And I watched them make up this really beautiful homebrew experience in 5e that was, tailored to our characters and this plot we all really bought into. And I loved that experience. I loved having a character that was really different from me and thinking through how they would grow and be challenged. And then it was just a slippery slope. Probably 6 months into playing, I was like, all right, all of my Kickstarters are coming in, and I want to play these things, but I don't know how to find someone to run them, which is I think a perennial problem. It's like, oh, I have this, who's going to run it? And eventually you're just like, well, all right, I will run this thing because I want to play it and I can convince people to play it with me. So that's how I got in the GM seat, and I don't want to be in any other seat now. I really, really enjoy it. I do a lot of 5e right now. I also do a lot of Brindlewood Bay, which is from the Gauntlet, powered by the Apocalypse / carved from Brindlewood. And that system is, I think it's my love. I love it so much. The way that it works. And it's not crunchy. So similar to Maia and Andrew, these games that are about the internal and external narratives about players, about how these players are challenged, how they grow. That is something that I've always loved from my writing days. And so now getting to go to my really excellent storyteller friends and say, like, tell me how it is, and giving over the narrative reins and having them really shine is something that fills my bucket. So, oh gosh, I'm losing my place. I'm trying to think of what else I need to say. That's it's been a couple of years now. And I think we've got a couple lore goblins in here. Maia, you're talking about your shelf and beginner, all the stuff that you guys have, and I've tried a couple games now with Andrew. My shelves are getting pretty heavy. I bought an external drive just to start pulling stuff off of my computer to have it all in one separate place. I'm
I just had
chronically
Amazon just delivered a bookshelf. it's right there.
there you go, investment. I'm chronically on Kickstarter, BackerKit, and itch.io. Those really silly one-pagers, the stuff that the indie community is putting out. So I've dipped my toes in a lot of different systems now, because I'm really hungry for it. I really enjoy learning the mechanics and figuring out, okay, what does it look like to tell a story in this space or with these types of characters? And I think that's where like Brindlewood Bay really scratches that itch, because there's not a lot of games focused specifically on senior citizens, on the elderly, about what life is like for them, what life is like in a retirement community. And then, of course, cult horror is something that is near and dear to my heart. So I like that aspect. It's just the perfect game for me. And that's what I'm going to be starting here first on Looking for Mom. That brings me to, why did I join this? Why did I sign up and send the DM and want to do it? I've never streamed anything before. I had maybe 3 sessions of being a streaming player in one of Andrew's games. And I'm wrapping up a couple of campaigns. And I think, just like you said, Beginner, that it kind of came at the right time, in terms of, this is a way I can push myself. It's a way I can lean in and learn more about what I can do for my players, being in the GM seat, being in the keeper seat. And then I think, similarly to all of us, it's just bringing more opportunities and experiences to the table. I have a lot of tables that are almost 100% in the LGBTQ community, or a majority of that. And there are more and more representation for that community now, which is really awesome. And I want to contribute to that. I feel very lucky to have been part of that, in supporting those things, and want to continue that. And I think bringing systems that don't see a lot of light, the things that aren't massively published and produced, the little the small indie stuff from itch.io, or like Possum Creek Games, or things that it's 1 or 2 people putting a lot of heart in, and then they're publishing it. Those are the things that I want to showcase and give playable experiences for. So if someone is like me and they've just downloaded a couple of files and they want to see the game in action, they're not out of luck. There's something up there, an example of it, for new GMs, new people who are expanding their horizon outside of 5e for the first time. So those are really my goals. And then just to learn how all the technology works. I've already learned today that my poor laptop, I probably need to make some investments after this. But that's what the tax return is for. So
yes.
We'll wait for that to come in. Did I miss anything? Was that the whole list? I'm scrolling through my own introduction on the server to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Everything.
Looks like you hit everything.
100%.
I think Andrew's next.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice
Stop raising
try.
your hand, Andrew.
Nice try.
I'm gonna
Nice
go
try.
refill my water cup though, real
All
quick.
All right. I'm putting you on the hot seat there, Shallow.
Yeah, I guess I'm next.
Yeah.
I'm ShallowLines, or Gene T. And first, I'd like to say is I've been gaming with Beginner for a very long time, and when I see Beginner's face, he is Beginner to me. We played many games together. I've seen his family. I know what his trials were last week. We've had many discussions, and I didn't know his first name until today. He will still always be Beginner to me, and that's the wonder of the internet, is that I was Gene T for a long time, and then changed my handle really to ShallowLines when Discord changed. But Beginners will always be Beginner to me. Today is the first day I recognized his name when he picked a pre-gen, but I wasn't going to mention it because I will always call him Beginner. I just wanted to put that out there.
Do you feel closer to him now?
No, to be honest.
The thing is, to me, when I'm speaking in English, to me, my own name sounds weird. I have always been Beginner on the internet. So say my name is Sebastian. So say my name Yeah, when I'm speaking in English, switch to Spanish to say my name, it cannot feel weird to myself. So I never use my own name.
I lived overseas and been to like 40 countries, give or take, and lived in Spain for 4 years. So Sebastian is, in my ear, but you're still beginner. Always will beginner, and your real name will probably fade off into my collective consciousness. Anyways, I have been mainly a lurker for my life, which is what happens when you're born in the 60s and you play your first game maybe in 79 or 81, or during a time period where finding a table was very difficult, which we talked about. There weren't really gaming stores. You might see a pinup on a bookstore, but I remember my parents starting to give me like $5, $10 every Christmas to buy books. And we would think about going to the bookstore, and you'd sit there with books in your lap and decide, how am I going to spend this $10, because $10 is a lot when you're 10, 11, 12 in the 80s. And you might find one book in RPG, and what is this thing? I'm going to spend all my money on that one book, or I'm going to get like 5 or 6 or 7, paperback fantasy science fiction books and that sort of thing. Finding a game even in middle school and as you got older, we didn't have the internet. High school with sports, and then eventually life takes over. Profession, marriage, kids, living
Taxes.
overseas, for a couple of decades on 3 different continents. And I played a lot I did try to keep my creative flow working, or that part of my creativity, because I had all these other stresses, professional job and being a dad takes over, really, which is, it should, honestly, at some degree. And you integrate your kids into those kind of hobbies that you like, but you also learn the hobbies they like, really. And so that you spend as much time with them as possible. You kind of influence their hobbies to some degree, but they're people too, and they develop their own hobbies. So I played a lot by play-by-post. I did run a D20 game on an old kind of text system called OpenRPG for about a year. I played a lot of play-by-post. I had a Pathfinder game on another server that was play-by-post that had 50,000 posts in a year as a GM, that was called Hidden Riders of Zetra. And then I kind of shifted over to RPG Crossing and play-by-post, mainly because my playing was intermittent. Finding a table, even with the internet, was very difficult when you live overseas, and we had 24 baud motor, and it just wasn't going to happen. And I was learning, I wanted to practice writing, really. Scene, construction, dialogue, word choice, which is something that is much more difficult when you're a GM, because my writing skill may be different than my speaking skill. Like, I don't recover all those words, or I don't, and so that's different. Then I actually came back to tabletop, really, on the internet, on beginner server as a player first, to Forbidden Lands, and started GMing. I started GMing a weekly game every Fridays that was open table. And in the Forbidden Lands system, you want to play, come on. First couple months, I would ask them where they're going, because I have no idea. Open table, West March is, you tell me where you're going, what you're doing. It's exploration. You're going east, north, south, or west. After about 3 months, I didn't even ask until we sat down. Who's coming to play? Sign up. Maybe you tell me where you're going, but if not. And so I learned my style, which is a lot of improv, a little bit of planning. If it doesn't work, you throw that out. And how do I develop a style and have things that I can move to? Because as a GM, I want things to be unknown even to me, which is why I use Mythic GM Emulator sometimes, or ask Mystic on the spur of the moment, what happens? And then improv from that point, because I don't want to make the decision of what happens. I want it to be spontaneous, and those situations can go all over the place.
Yeah, that's where the fun's at.
Right. Then I started running more traditional, kind of, but pretty open. 2 Symbaroum campaigns I run now. Thursday for a European time, and Friday. I've been running them for a while. I actually have probably the same set of core players. I have 4 or 5 players that I played with, some of them over a year and a half, 50, 60 plus sessions. I have a couple new players recently in the European time zone game and the Friday late, and that kind of spurs on that different aspect when you add a player. And how does that shift the party and how does that play? And as me as a GM, I try to hit every character, and really what my goal is to bring games to people to play regardless of their play style. Realize that you're not a great RP at the beginning, and you may just be a dice roller, but how do I mix that? If you're a really quiet player and you're coming to play with me at 2 a.m, I learn when to ask you questions and when to hit you, because if you're having fun and you're not really talking a lot, great, you're there to have fun. And that's really what my goal is. I may, as a player, play a certain style or like a certain style, but I could surely roll dice, but I definitely put a lot of RP in it. But as a GM, I think mainly my goal at the beginning was to provide a space where lots of people can learn about role-playing games and not be a mentor or, try to show them role-playing and dice. But even at my present tables, online tables, I have people who really like dice and combat. I have people who really like RP. I have really quiet people. I have really boisterous people. How do I manage that table so that everyone has fun? And each person, at a moment, I will ask certain players, what are they doing, even if they're not in the scene or not doing things. And I know when to ask certain players what type of questions. I kind of learn each of those. And in that open table format, that West March's open table format, has taught me kind of how to adjust to different player needs. And I may like to have them role play a lot, and I may demonstrate role play and see if I can tease them out a little bit, get them over here a little bit and over there a little bit.
Yeah.
But I have to balance that, especially in a system like Forbidden Lands or Symbaroum, which it has mechanics of that nature. I personally kind of slide a little bit to more rules light systems, which is why we're playing Roll for Shoes today. How can I have a very light system that offers a broad range of possibilities that I don't even know what's going to happen? And you can develop your character along these lines that there isn't really, okay, I got to follow this line or I got to follow this line. Now, I've played a lot of 5e and Pathfinder, but you're kind of doing this as opposed to playing Roll for Shoes or playing some of the other systems where you got an idea or you got a sentence that says maybe what your character could possibly do, but that sentence has these broad connotations that you could take it over here. And I, as a GM, have no idea where you're going to go. And I have to improv it in that moment, last minute. And you do that with all games. But I think if you're playing a mechanics heavy game, a lot of people get blinded a little bit. And I like those games. And if people like Symbaroum has a lot of that. And I actually chose Symbaroum because I have all the books. And like all you guys, we back way too many Kickstarters and we have way too much stuff. And so I decided, here's what I told myself last month. I'm not going to buy anything from Kickstarter. I'm going to try to play all these games. But what did I just do this last week? Oh, I backed their Kickstarter. Why did I back them? Well, it's Coriolis. It's, new Coriolis system. It's, other systems that I already have. And so, no, I need that. And so that's really my goal for the channel or joining the channel was to touch more players, because at the moment I really have a very core set of players that I played for almost 2 years, because a lot of people are lurkers and have them in a space that's easy for them to learn, even if they don't RP well, be goofy and figure it out, or if it is dice, And so I don't know what kind of system I will run. It doesn't matter if it's going to be a Dolmenwood Hex. I can run a Dolmenwood Hex exploration, and I can run something like a Delta Green, which is a whole lot different. And I've played in both of those spaces, but how do I mix them a little bit? How do I put a little bit of Delta Green in a Dolmenwood Hex? And how do I put a little bit of Hex in Dolmenwood Green, Delta Green if needed to? And that's kind of my goal. My play style as a player, I played with Andrew, he probably knows. I try to enter the spotlight and then recede from the spotlight. I'm very RP driven and character driven, which is different. You're sometimes a different player than you are a GM. As a GM, it helps me help the GM maybe make decisions, but I'm a different player necessarily. Can I play a Hex style? Yeah, I'd have a lot of fun playing. I had a lot of fun playing Forbidden Lands, and it's, procedural. It can be. I don't necessarily run it procedural, but it can be procedural and that sort of thing. So trying to play many different games. My goal is maybe to play a number of short games over 2 to 4 sessions. We will hit all sorts of things. We'll play a little bit of Domenwood, we'll play a little bit of Delta Green, we'll play a little bit of Blade Runner, we'll play a little bit of Roll for Shoes. I might hit a 24XX system. I will play, Electric Bastions, and you play 4 or 6 systems, and you have this broad category to try to bring all those games. Hopefully people who've never played those games will play, and instead of people who played those games. Like today, I've never played Roll for Shoes. And I'm playing Roll for Shoes in a way that you may not really see on YouTube if you've looked up Roll for
Okay.
Shoes. It's the genre is a little bit different for Roll for Shoes. So that's kind of my intent, really, for
Yeah.
playing multiple different games, because I need to get through this Kickstarter thing that I have on my shelf.
Yeah.
And
Zine Quest month really.
right,
whew.
30
Yeah.
years of PDFs. I don't have a hard drive external. I have an external server with backup.
Okay. He's on a whole nother
And-
level, you guys. Oh,
and I have
God.
a GM folder with 80 folders that has everything from GURPS to I have my
Yeah,
original.
that point you mentioned, like not every player comes to the table to looking for the same experience, and you don't see that too much online either. So having that kind of player in the table, there are people that's really quiet. They don't role play too much, but they are there. They have the fun, and showing that it's good for the people on the other side too that like to play that way. And yeah, playing with a lot of different people, you how to care to their needs, or to provide what they want to get out of the game without pushing them to where you want, to what the other
Yes.
people wants to get.
Yeah.
If they don't want to roleplay too much, you do not make them roleplay too much. They just can say what the character do. If the other people want to roleplay, they can roleplay. If they
And
want
there is a
combat
balance.
or no combat, you learn to balance that,
Right.
playing with a lot of different players.
There's, I think, 2 different modes of GM, at least for me.
Mhm.
There's the GM, G&T, or ShallowLines, who's bringing the game to people, and I'm teaching them the game, flexing to their comfortable levels, demonstrating RP, rolling lots of dice, letting them play and have fun. If they don't want to say anything for 45 minutes, I may ask them questions, and I may learn when to ask them questions and what kind of questions to ask them. But if they're coming at 2 a.m. and having fun, and they just really want to be a shooter, then I do that. And then there's a GM, G&T, or ShallowLines, who needs a different game that needs heavy RP or needs heavy hex crawl or whatever it is that I like. And there's not a difference between the two necessarily. I don't want to just run a table that everyone has to heavy RP. Inside, I feel like I need to run these other tables, open tables, West Marches tables, free tables, new systems, for people who don't necessarily embody that character or have a little bit of angst or nervousness and want to try that out, or just want to roll dice. And so there's a difference. I like both of those types of GMs. Some days I'm this one, and some days I'm this one. Part of me probably for this looking for mom is to be a little bit more this one, a little bit of more of the type of game that because it's stretching my abilities and is things I really like. But I also really love just having an open table and knowing that this quiet person is coming every single week. They live halfway around the country, and it's 2 a.m. their time, but darn it, they're getting up to play, and they're only talking once every 30 minutes. And hey, that makes me feel good because they're there. So there's a dichotomy, because us as players, as GMs, we do have to fill our buckets too. If we don't fill our buckets, then we will start not to like what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so every one of us likes certain game types. Like Sid really likes that game type. Like she'll run that game type a lot because it fills that bucket. If she didn't like that game type, she would do something else. And because we're players too, I like procedural play. I like Forbidden Lands and Symbaroum. I can get really crunchy. Is it my favorite place? No, but but I like it enough that I like to bring that to other players. And I have these players who've been playing with me for a really long time, and I may shift them, pull them a little bit. When I started Simbroom, I pulled them a little bit. And so my intent is maybe to find a lot of other players and try many different systems. And can I really run a electric state game like Andrew does? Because that game is complicated. It can be really complicated. And that kind of heavier RP, I can run, feels, and I can run emotion. But a game like Electric State, given its genre, is completely different.
Going back to your previous point, like you as a GM, you are a player. You need to get your fix to have fun and to keep doing it, and the player too. And that kind of conversation of what I want of the game and what the player wants of the game, or how to find that balance, that's not usually shown anywhere. Like most people don't know how to have that conversation. Like, hey, I will do this combat because him and her want to fight something tonight because that's what they are here for. Or I will set you on a journey because I want to run that kind of exploration part. So let's do a little bit of everything so everyone can have their fun and their fix. And that kind of conversation is not usually shown anywhere, or people don't know how to have it.
I think it starts in like the post when you're like, hey, when you're posting out like what game you're about to run and looking for players. I'll put out like this is my GM style and this is what the type of game I'm going to run and what I'm looking for. And then the players who are down with that and they're like, yeah, I play like that. That's exactly my style. They're the ones that sign up.
Yeah,
so you have that conversation.
That's easier to accomplish online. But when you have a close group of friends online that you play together because you are close or whatever, teaching how or showing how you do it or how you get that out of the way and do that kind of conversation. I think it's important to let people know that you can stop the game and say, hey, let's do a little bit of that or let's move a little bit that way. Because I want to do something like that before we get to say goodbye and not play for another week.
Coming from Tabletop Hobos, which is an open table West Marches game, I don't necessarily post this is the kind of game I'm going to run because it's Forbidden Lands. You as a player know what Forbidden Lands is. It's an open table West Marches, and so when you join that game, you may have many different play styles. And right, as opposed to here or some other games, when I started Simbroom, I did that. I said, okay, we're going to play Simbroom. It's going to be much more role-playing because my audience or the people I play with, my friends, the players on Tabletop Hobos, they're used to Forbidden Lands for a year, open table West Marches. There's a lot of role-play in there, but it is a procedural kind of hex crawl, and even if I run it different, it's a little bit different. But that is probably another reason why to advertise very specific games like you guys, and that fills this bucket.
Yeah, that's what I think is really exciting and just about all of us doing this together is the breadth of like players and play styles that are going to be here. I think through I mentioned that I've got a lot of siblings who play D&D, and even just conversations about my brother's games are we're going in, we're dungeon crawling, we're clearing everything out, and that's what he loves and enjoys about the game, and that's where he has fun. And then my sister is like, let me make the like saddest, most redemptive character possible and figure out their internal struggles and then like have that come out. And in that role play and how that character grows is why they play the game and what they really love. Both of them are playing the same exact game, the same mechanics, the same rules, but their experiences are so different because of the way that their tables are and what those groups like and want out of their games. And it's so fascinating, I think, for me, because I know them both really, really well. But just at having some of these experiences now, running a game server, having more players that are not my core group sign up for all sorts of different types of games and realizing, all right, like, my table, I love my home table, we're also very like insular, right? We've been playing the same way, I think, like what ShallowLines said, for a bit. And so having these new experiences, new players come into the fold is so like eye-opening, exciting. Of like, all right, well, what's this table gonna feel like and do? Which is why I'm going to be stalking everyone's games that you're running here.
Oh yeah, same.
For
same.
sure.
Looking forward to watching everybody's games. But yeah,
It's a
I love
time
playing.
factor.
I love playing with new people. I think I've heard some comments in the TTRPG space. They're like, "Oh, I never play with strangers." And I was like, "What are you talking about? That you would never meet anybody new." Like we were all strangers at some point with each other. But I love playing with new people and seeing how that goes. But is everybody ready to move on to the next session or section in our little?
Yeah, maybe a
Yeah.
5-minute break before we.
Yeah, I was gonna say
roll
that.
for shoes because I had a lot of caffeine and.
Gotta refill the water cup
Alright.
again.
Listen, can we
Pause
make
the
it? Can we make it 10?
Yeah, sure.